Crazy Horse is an American rock band best known for their association with Neil Young, beginning in 1969 and continuing to the present day. They have been co-credited on a number of Young's albums, with 11 studio albums and numerous live albums being billed as by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Quote, they have also released 6 studio albums of their own, issued between 1971 and 2009. Billy Talbot, bass, and Ralph Molina, drums, have been the only consistent members of the band on 4 of Crazy Horse's studio albums. Talbot and Molina serve as the rhythm section to an entirely different group of musicians. History. Early years. The band's origins date to 1963 and the Los Angeles-based a cappella doo-wop group Danny and the Memories, which consisted of main singer Danny Whitten and supporting vocalists Lou Bisbal, soon to be replaced by Bengiamino Rocco, the husband of actress Lorna Maitland. Billy Talbot and Ralph Molina, the latter two would become the only members of Crazy Horse present in every incarnation of the band. Sly Stone produced a single for the group, by now rechristened The Cycle, in San Francisco on Lorna Records, a subsidiary of Autumn Records. However, it did not sell very well either regionally or nationally. Back in Los Angeles, the group evolved over the course of several years into the Rockets, a psychedelic pop, folk rock ensemble that juxtaposed the rudimentary instrumental abilities of Talbot, bass, Molina, drums, and Whitten, rhythm guitar, against the more accomplished Bobby Knockoff, violin, and Leon Whitsell, lead guitar. After leaving the group as sessions for their first album commenced, the mercurial and reclusive Whitsell left the group and was promptly replaced by his younger brother George, a R&B-influenced guitarist also respected in the band's social circle. After Leon petitioned to return, it was decided that both Whitsells would remain in the group. This sextet recorded the Rockets' only album, a self-titled set released in 1968 on White Whale Records. Whitten and Leon Whitsell contributed 4 songs apiece, with one song credited to Talbot and Molina and another, Pills Blues, the group's unofficial anthem, to George Whitsell. Whitten's Let Me Go was prominently covered by Three Dog Night on the 1968 debut. During this period, Danny Hutton considered recruiting Whitten for that band, with Neil Young. 1968 to 1970. Although the album only sold about 5,000 copies, the Rockets soon reconnected with Neil Young, whom they had met 2 years earlier during the early days of Buffalo Springfield. In August 1968, 3 months after Buffalo Springfield dissolved, Young jammed with the group during a Rockets performance at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Molina would later recall that Young's idiosyncratically distinctive guitar style blew George Whitsell's away. He was kind of overshadowed. Quote, shortly thereafter, Young enlisted Whitten, Talbot, and Molina to back him on his second solo album. Although all parties initially envisaged the Rockets continuing as a separate concern, the older band soon folded due to Young's insistence on having his new backing trio keep to a strict practice schedule. According to George Whitsell, my understanding was Neil was gonna use the guys for a record and a quick tour. Bring Em back and help us produce the next Rockets album. It took me a year and a half to realize that my band had been taken. Quote, credited to Neil Young with Crazy Horse. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere included the American No. 55 pop hit, Cinnamon Girl, and the extended guitar workouts, Down by the River, and Cowgirl in the Sand, alongside country and folk-influenced songs such as Running Dry, Requiem for the Rockets, a tribute to the defunct band featuring a guest appearance by Knockoff. Crazy Horse toured with Young throughout the first half of 1969 and, with the addition of frequent Young collaborator Jack Nitzsche on electric piano, in early 1970. The 1970 tour was showcased on the 2006 album Live at the Fillmore East. Young would later opine that, on some of the stuff, Nitzsche was in the way tonally. Crazy Horse was so good with the two guitars, bass and drums it didn't need anything else. Quote, although Nitzsche openly disdained the rhythm section of Talbot and Molina, he retrospectively lauded Witten, who was of Scotch-Irish-American ancestry, as the only black man in the band. Quote, shortly after beginning work on his third solo album with Crazy Horse in 1969, including an unreleased take of Witten's Look at All the Things, and a performance of Young's Helpless, that failed to make it to tape due to an engineering error. Young joined Crosby, Stills and Nash as a full fourth member, recording an album and touring with the ensemble in 1969 and 1970. When Young returned to his solo album in 1970, Crazy Horse found its participation more limited. The group as a whole appears on just 3 of the 11 tracks on After the Gold Rush. When You Dance I Can Really Love, recorded toward the end of the album's recording sessions, the majority of which included Ralph Molina in a semi-acoustic quartet with erstwhile CSNY bassist Greg Greaves and multi-instrumentalist Nils Lofgren, plus a cover of Don Gibson's Oh Lonesome Me, and I Believe in You, from the 1969 sessions. Young fired the group in the aftermath of the 1970 tour due to Witten's escalating heroin abuse, partially attributable to the rhythm guitarist's severe rheumatoid arthritis, following an incapacitated performance at one of the Fillmore East performances. According to Molina, Witten also felt that Young was holding him back as a guitarist and songwriter. With and without Young, 1970 to 1989. Crazy Horse capitalized on its newfound exposure and recorded its eponymous debut album for Reprise Records that year. The band retained Nitzsche as producer and keyboardist and added Lofgren as a second guitarist. Singer, songwriter and guitarist Ry Cooder also sat in on 3 tracks at the behest of Nitzsche to deputize for the ailing Witten. Although the album only peaked at No. 84 on the Billboard 200 chart in 1971. Witten's I Don't Want to Talk About It would later be covered by a wide range of artists, including Jeff Muldaur, the Indigo Girls, Peggy Young and Rod Stewart. Stewart would record the song 3 times and score a hit with it on the same number of occasions, most notably as a UK No. 1 double A-side in 1977 with Cat Stevens's The First Cut Is the Deepest. Quote, in 1988, the song would become a top 10 hit in the UK again. This time a No. 3 for Everything But the Girl. 2 songs from the album were covered by Scottish hard rock band Nazareth. Lofgren's Beggar's Day appeared on Hair of the Dog, 1975, while Nitzsche's Gone Dead Train is the second track on Expect No Mercy, 1977. Following the commercial failure of Crazy Horse, Lofgren and Nitzsche left the group to pursue solo careers. Meanwhile, Witten's drug problems pushed Talbot and Molina to dismiss him and turn to outside musicians. The band released 2 albums on different labels, Lucerne at Crooked Lake, to critical and commercial diffidence in 1972, along with Talbot and Molina. Guitarist, singer, songwriter Greg Leroy was the only musician to appear on both albums, while the former saw Rockets guitarist George Whitesell briefly returned to the fold, fronting the band in conjunction with Leroy and keyboardist John Blanton. The latter was dominated by the roots rock stylings of Rick and Mike Curtis. formerly of these visitors and best known for their later work as the Curtis Brothers. Concurrently, Young placed Witten on retainer in the fall of 1972 with a view toward including the guitarist in his new touring band, the Stray Gators. However, following his poor performance in rehearsals, the band pressured Young to dismiss him. Although Young let Witten live on his ranch in Woodside, California, and worked with him one-on-one during off hours in an unsuccessful effort to keep him in the group, Witten died several hours after returning to Los Angeles. His death attributed to a fatal overdose of alcohol and Valium. After Witten's death and the tepid reception accorded to both albums, Talbot and Molina were the only full-fledged members of the band. They let the Crazy Horse name go unused while resolving not to retire it altogether. In mid-1973, Young brought together a band comprising Talbot, Molina, Lofgren, and pedal steel guitarist Ben Keith to record Tonight's the Night, the majority of which eventually saw release in bowdlerized form with some other material added to the album. In 1975, in the autumn of 1973, this ensemble toured Canada, Great Britain, and the United States as the Santa Monica Flyers. Molina and Witzel would subsequently contribute percussion and guitar, respectively, to Young's On the Beach in 1974. Shortly after aborted Young sessions involving Talbot and Molina at Chicago's Chess Studios in late 1974, the trio spontaneously convened at Talbot's Echo Park home in 1975. The jam cemented the role of rhythm guitarist Frank "Poncho" Sampedro, a friend of Talbot, who began to play with the group, to the initial chagrin of Molina, during the Chicago excursion, and proved to be just the right person to help resurrect Crazy Horse. "It was great," Talbot would say of the gathering and the chemistry it evoked. "We were all soaring. Neil loved it. We all loved it. It was the first time we heard the horse since Danny Witten died." Quote, after a 5-year hiatus, Neil Young and Crazy Horse was born again, and Young marked the occasion by finishing off the lyrics to Powderfinger, soon to become one of the new lineup's signature songs. With Sampedro and producer David Briggs in tow, Young and Crazy Horse quickly recorded Zuma later that year in the basement of Briggs's rented house in Malibu, initiating their most prolific period of collaboration. Sampedro's lack of technical proficiency, Neil kept written simpler songs so I could play them, and desire to see Young rockin' and having fun and seeing chicks' asses swaying in the audience would greatly inform the tenor of the record, which largely essays conventional hard rock styles and ribald misogyny with few of the country and folk flourishes that had dominated Young's music since 1970. Following a warm-up tour of unannounced engagements at various San Francisco Bay Area bars, ironically christened the Rolling Zuma Review in reference to Bob Dylan's contemporaneous Rolling Thunder Review. In December 1975, Young and the band toured Japan and Europe in March to April 1976. However, they were shut out of a proposed summer stadium tour when Young rekindled his collaboration with Stephen Stills. They toured America that autumn when Young was forced to make up a series of cancelled concert dates after walking out midway through the tour with Stills. From late 1975 to 1977, Young recorded feverishly in various solo and group configurations. Crazy Horse appears on all but 2 songs of 1977's country-inflected American Stars and Bars, with many tracks featuring an augmented lineup that included Ben Keith, Carol Mayado, Linda Ronstadt, and Nicolette Larson. While Comes a Time features 2 performances with Crazy Horse, Look Out for My Love, and the Fleetwood Mac-inspired Lotta Love. In 1978, Crazy Horse released Crazy Moon, their fourth original album. It features instrumental contributions from Young, Bobby Knockoff, Greg Leroy and Michael Curtis. Later that year, they joined Young on the tour that led to the successful Rust Never Sleeps and Live Rust, both credited to Neil Young and Crazy Horse, as Young spent much of the 80s working in genres mostly outside the band's idiom. Crazy Horse recorded with him more sporadically, appearing only on Re-AC Tour, an unspecified portion of Trans and Life sessions for a planned 1984 album where the band ended after they were spooked by the addition of a professional horn section, although a bootleg of a performance at the Catalyst in Santa Cruz containing many of the intended songs remains an enduring fan favorite. Several years later, Young included all three members of Crazy Horse in another horn-driven ensemble, the Blue Notes. But when Talbot and Molina proved ill-suited to a blues-oriented approach, Young reluctantly replaced the Crazy Horse bassist and drummer while retaining San Pedro, who would remain with Young in various band permutations over the next 2 years. Immediately thereafter, Talbot and Molina replaced San Pedro with former Rain Parade guitarist Matt Pucci, recruited Sonny Moan to provide vocals and recorded the pointedly titled Left for Dead 1989, with and without Young. 1990 to 2014. The split with San Pedro and Young proved relatively short-lived as Young and Crazy Horse reunited in 1990 for the acclaimed album Ragged Glory and for a tour in 1991 that generated the live album Weld. Over the next 12 years Crazy Horse would steadily collaborate with Young once more, joining the singer for Sleeps with Angels 1994, Broken Arrow 1996, The Live Year of the Horse 1997, Goin' Home, Honor You Passionate 2002, and Greendale 2003. San Pedro agreed to sit out the recording of Greendale, as Young felt the material called for only one guitar. He joined the band on guitar and organ for the ensuing tours of 2003 and 2004. According to Jimmy McDonough, Crazy Horse had begun a sixth album of its own in the mid-1990s, but left the project unfinished when Young called upon the group to join him for some secret club dates in California, for which the quartet billed themselves as the Echoes, leading to the recording of Broken Arrow. Young and Crazy Horse attempted to record for 3 months in San Francisco in 2000. Few takes were finished to the band's satisfaction, and Young re-recorded most of the material with Booker T. and the M.G.'s for Are You Passionate? Toast. An album culled from the San Francisco sessions was announced for imminent release in 2008 as part of Young's Archives series. As of 2017, it remains unreleased. Crazy Horse remained on hiatus for 8 years following the Greendale tour, although San Pedro was employed as an assistant to Kevin Eubanks on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. From 1992 to 2010, the band continued to rehearse several times a year and more intermittently with Young during this period. Trick Horse, a collection of hitherto unreleased non-Young recordings possibly derived from older San Pedro-funded sessions where session musicians were hired to play the instrumental parts, enabling the band to focus on the vocal performances, was released on iTunes in 2009. According to Young in a 2011 interview with American songwriter, "They have to be together before I can be together with them. They haven't been doing anything together, so they need to be able to do it. I don't have the time to support things. I have to go with things that are going to support me. But I think they can do it." Quote. Shortly thereafter, Neil Young and Crazy Horse convened to release 2 albums in 2012. Americana was composed almost entirely of covers of American folk music revival songs and singer-songwriter standards, while Psychedelic Pill featured original Neil Young songs written for the band. Neil Young and Crazy Horse toured throughout 2012 and 2013 in support of both albums, traveling to the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and Europe. In 2013, Talbot, Molina, George Whitesell and lead vocalist, guitarist Ryan James Holzer formed Wolves. They released their first recording, Wolves EP, on February 16, 2014, with the addition of background singers Doreen Carter and Yana West. Young and Crazy Horse also embarked on a summer 2014 European tour following a solo Young American tour spanning the winter and spring, constituting their most recent activity to date. For the tour, longtime Young collaborator Rick Roses stood in for Talbot, who was recovering from a minor stroke. Reissued recordings. The self-titled debut album was reissued on CD in 1994. In 2005, Rhino Records' Handmade division released the two-disc set, Scratchy, the complete reprise recordings, in a limited edition of 2,500 copies. It included a remastered versions of the debut album and their second, Loose in their entirety on the first disc, with a second disc containing 9 rarities and outtakes, including both sides of a 1962 single by Danny and the Memories. The original set is currently out of print, but was reissued on Rhino in England and Wounded Bird in the U.S. Loose was also reissued as a standalone CD by Wounded Bird in 2006. The Australian reissue label Raven Records reissued Crazy Moon in 1999 with 7 rare bonus tracks, and in 2005 put out a 20-track retrospective, Gone Dead Train, the best of Crazy Horse 1971 to 1989, featuring material from each of the group's 5 albums with the exception of its second one. Loose, Left for Dead was released in 1995 on the Sis Curb label, and Crazy Moon was reissued on CD again as a BMG import in 2005. At Crooked Lake was reissued in 2013 on the Floating World label. Lineup. Current. Billy Talbot, bass, vocals. 1968-present. Ralph Molina, drums, vocals. 1968-present. Frank Poncho Sampedro, guitar, keyboards, mandolin, vocals. 1975 to 1988. 1990-present. Past members who performed with Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Danny Whitten, guitar, vocals. 1968 to 1971. Died 1972. Jack Nitcher, keyboards, vocals. 1970-1971. Died 2000. Rick Roses, touring bassist. 2014. Died 2014. Doreen Carter, touring vocalist. 2014. Yana West, touring vocalist. 2014. Other past members. Nils Lofgren, guitar, keyboards, vocals. 1970-1971. George Whitesell, guitar, vocals. 1971-1972. Greg Leroy, guitar, vocals. 1971-1972. 1978. Guest. John Blanton, keyboards, harmonica, cello, vocals. 1971-1972. Rick Curtis, guitar, banjo, vocals. 1972. Michael Curtis, keyboards, guitar, mandolin, vocals. 1972. 1978. Guest. Sonny Moan, guitar, vocals. 1989. Matt Piucci, guitar, vocals. 1989. Discography. The Rockets. White Whale Records 1968. Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse. Reprise 1971. Loose. Reprise 1972. At Crooked Lake. Epic 1972. Crazy Moon. Capitol 1978. Left for Dead. Capitol 1989. Gone Dead Train. The Best of Crazy Horse 1971 to 1989. Raven 2005. Scratchy. The Complete Reprise Recordings. Rhino Handmade 2005. Trick Horse. Poncho Villa. 2009. 1. Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. 1969. After the Gold Rush. 1970. Credited to Neil Young. Oh Lonesome Me. When You Dance I Can Really Love, and I Believe in You. Tonight's the Night. 1975. Credited to Neil Young. With most tracks featuring Lofgren, Molina and Talbot as the Santa Monica Flyers. Come On Baby Let's Go Downtown. Recorded live at the Fillmore East on March 7, 1970. Zuma. 1975. All songs except Pardon My Heart and Through My Sails. American Stars in Bars. 1977. Credited to Neil Young. The Old Country Waltz. Saddle Up the Palomino. Hey Babe. Hold Back the Tears. Bite the Bullet. Like a Hurricane, and Homegrown. Comes a Time. 1978. Credited to Neil Young. Look Out for My Love, and Lotta Love. Russ Never Sleeps. 1979. Powderfinger. Welfare Mothers. Sedan Delivery, and Hey Hey. My. Into the Black. Quote. Live Rust. Live. 1979. Re-AC Tour. 1981. Trans. 1982. Credited to Neil Young. All Crazy Horse players appear on the album, but not necessarily together. The album sleeve does not list track-by-track credits. Life. 1987. Ragged Glory. 1990. Weld. Live. 1991. Arc. Live. 1991. A 35-minute composite of feedback, guitar noise, and vocal fragments culled from endings of songs performed live. Sleeps with Angels. 1994. The Complex Sessions. EP. 1995. Promo Only. Broken Arrow. 1996. Year of the Horse. Live. 1997. Are You Passionate? 2002. Credited to Neil Young. Goin' Home. Greendale. 2003. Live at the Fillmore East. Live. 2006. Recorded March 6 to 7. 1970. Americana. 2012. Psychedelic Pill. 2012. Neil Young and Crazy Horse on film and video. Russ Never Sleeps. 1979. Weld. 1991. Sleeps with Angels. C. 1995. Promo Only. The Complex Sessions. 1995. Year of the Horse. 1997. Greendale. 2004. Video release includes Be the Rain, live at the Air Canada Centre. Toronto, Ontario. The 9th of April 03. Be the Rain. 2004. Promo Only. Farm Aid 2003. A soundstage special event. C. 2004. Includes Hey Hey, My, Into the Black. Live at the German Amphitheatre. Columbus, Ohio. The 9th of July 03. A Music Airs tribute to Bruce Springsteen. 2014. Billy Talbot Solo. Alive in the Spirit World. 2004. On the Road to Spearfish. 2013. Other collaborations. She Used to Wanna Be a Ballerina. Buffy St. Marie. Vanguard. 1971. Head Like a Rock. Ian McNabb. 1994. On 4 songs only. Without Frank San Pedro. Footnotes.